when you kind of take a step back and realize like everyone, no matter what, like especially in this space, we're always going to be students, we're always going to be learning the things that we do and the techniques and the tools and whatnot. Like they're always going to be changing, styles are always going to be shifting. And so understanding that you're always going to be in this constant cycle of learning and growth helps you get more comfortable with knowing that you're not an imposter. You're just in one of those fields where you're always going to be a student, and that's okay. And just keep taking the time to get better at being a good student.
Hey Hatchlings, welcome to the Motion Hatch podcast. I'm your host, Hayley Akins. This is a Motion Hatch podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is a podcast where we talk about the business side of motion design and animation. On this week's show, we have Sabrina Curry. She's currently a motion designer at Facebook. She told us a bit about how she got her job at Facebook, and she also talked about working at Collegehumor. I know you're all going to really enjoy this one, so let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the other side. Hey Sabrina, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So I just wanted to start by asking you, what did you do before you were a motion designer?
Yeah, so before I was a motion designer, I was actually studying film in college. I was really gearing up to, be a filmmaker. I thought I was going to be like the next Steven Spielberg or whatever, and was really into it all throughout high school. And so I had done a few internships, and it really brought a lot of focus to what I wanted to do. Like I found out what specifically within film I was drawn to. And I learned very quickly that it wasn't the filmmaking, but more of the like visual effects, like the magic that went into the filmmaking process. And so once I kind of understood that about myself and really started digging into the details of what it meant to do like visual effects and what that all entailed, it really just shifted my, ambition. And, I started like studying graphic design principles and motion design. And, just like everyone else, like I was on Video Copilot, soaking up all of those tutorials. And I kind of stumbled into motion design. Like I didn't know what it was when I had first started, but that's kind of what I was doing before I like dived into this field.
Yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of people, that they just kind of stumble into it, but they're obviously like normally driven by creative things. So, I was similar, like going to do film production and instead of, directly animation, but then you kind of just figure out as you go along what interests you. So did you go to school or university to do animation?
So I actually didn't study it in school. I kind of taught myself outside of school how to do it. But in school, I was studying graphic design at Cal State Long Beach in California. And so, at Cal State Long Beach, it's a great school for design, but they didn't really have the program that fit those needs or those interests. Even within my own program, we had like one class for motion design, and it was more like a self-driven course, which it was great, but, it really put it on you to take the time to learn the skill set. And so I was just, I was on YouTube, Grayscale Gorilla, taking it back to Video Copilot, just like hunting down a lot of this information that was, at the time really scattered. And so there were only these really limited hubs for collecting that. Yeah, I'm just kind of a student of the internet, kind of like everyone else in the field.
Yeah, definitely. So you work for Facebook now. So how did your journey to working for Facebook happen?
Yeah, that was a bit of a crazy journey. I actually didn't think I was, ready or would be here like now. I got my start, right out of college, working at Collegehumor. I learned so much about entertainment in that industry and production and, how motion design and visual effects fit within, that end of the business. But then, I was on LinkedIn one day and I had been reached out by a recruiter at a company called Acorns in Irvine. And they're kind of like in the financial technology space. And so tech was a very like new thing for me. I didn't know how motion design worked or operated in there, but I was curious. And so that curiosity kind of led me to, go through that interview process and just take a leap and leave entertainment and really dive into, the tech space. And Motion design for tech, it's a little bit new, but it's so dramatically different than entertainment. Like the tools you're using kind of shift, the way you think about motion shifts a bit, and you're kind of understanding this through the lens of the product experience. And once I had spent some time working there, I had just kind of like been consumed by it. Like I love doing product work. I love doing interaction design and things that could enhance that experience, and using, motion design to tell a better story on those platforms. And so I think having that equal parts entertainment and then product background made me better equipped to really step into my role at Facebook. And so how I got the job at Facebook, I honestly still don't know how my name got on the short list, but I had been invited to this like very secret event. I wouldn't say like secret event, but more of a cryptic event by this team called the Collective. And so they had like sent out this invite to a bunch of LA creatives to come and like attend this like little mixer. And I thought it was going to be like just like this big thing that they just invited people to. I was like, oh, okay, well, why not? And I actually didn't think it was a real email at first. Like I thought it was like fake and some spam. And then I saw they were giving out lift codes, and I was like, okay, they're giving out lift codes. If they're paying, like it's not like a fake thing. Why not? What do I have to lose? And so I went there, and it was at this really cool like room in Venice, California. There was like this art installation in the center, and just a bunch of Facebook art directors and producers and creative directors. And when I kind of got there, I was instantly like pulled by a recruiter, and they're like, "Oh, what's your name?" And I was like, "Oh, Sabrina." Like just super scared, like how am I here? How do they even know about me? And so I was like quickly dragged and like given to an art director. It was kind of strange because it was like they already knew who I was a little bit. Like they had vetted everyone in the room before they got there. And I'm just like still confused. I'm just like, once again, how am I on the short list for this? Like I'm a nobody in this scene. I'd started talking with one of the creative directors who I recognized on the email. And I was like, quick question, how did you find out about me? And he gave me a very cryptic answer. And he was like, if you're here, that means someone was talking about you. And it was like, okay, but like, who was talking about me? Like, I'm still like a nobody in this scene. Like, this is so strange, but I'm also like super stoked to be here. I honestly still don't know how I ended up on Facebook's radar, but whatever secret person who's been looking out for me, thank you so much. If you're listening to this podcast, I owe you the world. Kind of a couple months later, I'm sitting in the Bay Area working at Facebook. It's still crazy to me. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but I'm super thankful to be here, and the experience has been really positive so far.
Yeah, that was one of my questions that I was going to ask you actually about like how did the recruiters find out about you? Like I was just thinking like maybe you signed up for something or something like that, but obviously that wasn't the case.
It's honestly like still a mystery, and even still, just to kind of expand on that, when I had first interviewed with Facebook from that, initial kind of recruiting event, I actually didn't get that position. And so I'd gone through the process, and I was lucky enough to get an on-site interview, but I was going for an animator's role. I can honestly admit that I didn't feel like I had the skill sets to really fulfill the needs of that role. But, when I was speaking with them, they were like super kind, really gracious. They're like, it's okay if you don't know some of the tools, we're open to you learning and whatnot. But kind of to back up and talk about the interview. The interview process in general was honestly one of the best interviews I'd ever done. Like the recruiters really prepared you for success. They kind of gave you the recipe. There were no gotchas. They said, here are the expectations. Here are the things that would be best to present. Here's the formula for your presentation. And you have 30 minutes to kind of share yourself with, this panel of interviewers. And so, I kind of like calmed my nerves. I gave the presentation. They just really like were so kind and really supportive and encouraging. And there was not one moment in that room where I felt like I was being torn down. Everyone was very uplifting and really just wanted to get to know me as a person and me as a creative, and just, where my ambitions were. And so to talk a bit about that interview process, one thing that I found was really helpful that I had done during it was constantly asking each interviewer I sat down with for feedback on my portfolio. Because I recognize, this was a rare opportunity. No matter what happened, like I'm able to get my portfolio on front of some of the most, talented people in the industry. This is such a great opportunity to get the feedback that I need, no matter how harsh it is. It's going to push me in a better direction. And I think because I was able to do that and they were so great and just like giving me that constructive criticism that I needed to really better align my work with the needs. When they had invited me back this year to interview with another team, it just made me more better prepared to share my work and to share myself and to really come in more focused and ready for that role. And it was for a motion design role this go around. So it was more like in my wheelhouse.
Yeah, well, that's super interesting. So they asked you to do like a 30-minute presentation sort of thing. So it wasn't like just Q&A type vibe.
So it initially started out as a 30-minute presentation. And then after that, you met with each interviewer. So it was about 7 people you sat down with, and they all had very focused questions they asked you. And they were all different. And so it was really interesting. It really helped me self-reflect a bit and just like ask these questions to myself that I never thought to ask. Like I was like, oh wow, like I never like thought I needed to like really think about this and really know how to understand these concepts and whatnot. And so it was definitely a tough interview, but tough in a good way. And I find it's rare sometimes that you come into these spaces and the interviewers you're interviewing with like don't just kind of like rip you apart. Like I've heard some really scary horror stories for creatives where they'll just like kind of pick you to pieces, but it never felt like that going through this interview. And even in the interviewing with the second team, like everyone was always really kind and gracious. And it really made me feel comfortable sharing myself in this environment.
Is there any advice that you would like to give the audience if they're going for like an interview at a large tech company, say, or another large creative company?
Definitely take this as an opportunity to get feedback. I always like to say, like, sharing your work is the best thing you can do, whether it's good or bad. I know sharing my work over the years has been the reason I've been able to get anywhere, really. You can't get these opportunities if you're hiding from them. But also getting that feedback when you're in that position to get it from the people who can really help you, recognizing those opportunities and just getting feedback from your peers in general. Like my friends throughout school, like honestly, I credit them to me even getting my first job. Like they had all encouraged me to like share my work on Behance or like, hey, put it up, put it up. And that's when a recruiter had reached out to me on that network for my job at Collegehumor. And so it's just like, it's so important to share and get feedback whenever you can, because that's going to be the way you're really going to grow in this space, to get all the eyes you looking from every angle at the work you're making and just pointing out your blind spots. And then just not kind of taking feedback as, no matter how it is, like as kind of a slam at you, but just focusing it in a positive context. Like they're looking at places where I can be better and where I can put up a bit. And yeah, sharing your work and getting feedback often is the one thing I would want to share.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And I think a lot of people are really afraid to share their work out there and put it up for a bit of criticism. But like you say, like, how can you grow if you don't do that?
Yeah, and I know like I can be still the same way. Like sometimes I spend too much time with work where I'm just like, oh, this isn't my best work. This isn't good enough. I shouldn't put this out. And what I found is some of the work that I've hated the most that I've shared on social media or just out into the world has been more well received than the work that I was super proud of, which was interesting, right? It's like you never know what people will gravitate to. And sometimes we let our own biases determine what is good and what isn't. And, what is good and what isn't could be completely different to someone viewing your work. And so I think it's just best to get comfortable with sharing your worst sometimes. Like you might be surprised how this work will resonate with people, but you got to give yourself the opportunity to have that. Like you can't just take it out of the ring just because you hate it.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. Has there been anything that you shared where you thought, oh, I don't think this is going to get any likes on social media or no one's going to like this work? Like a particular thing that you shared and then it did that you can share with us? That was a lot of shares.
Oh man. Oh yeah, no, definitely. There's a few pieces where I'm just like, this is like just a quick like late night doodle. No one's gonna care about this, whatever. And then like my latest one actually, the one I had posted with the cube and the hearts. It was a quick project that I was just like really anxious about. And just like, I don't know if this is the right thing. I don't know if this looks good. And it just like didn't feel that great about it. And then I had shared it and people like really liked it. I was like, whoa, you guys like this like hacky thing, and this is like cool. I don't know. And so I guess like that piece, I didn't think it would be as well received as it was. It kind of felt like it still needed a lot of finesse to me personally. But I was like, I can't get so precious with my work sometimes. Like if I get too precious with it, I'm never going to put it out because I'm always going to find something that's wrong with it. And I know that's just something about myself that I need to work through and just not be such a perfectionist in that way. Even with the sound design, I'm like I look back at it and it's a little cringy and I'm like, oh, it could have been better here and there. But it's good to like put stuff out and then just learn from the feedback that you get from people reacting to it, and then see where you can do better a little later.
Yeah, definitely. And also, a funny thing is, I actually found you through Instagram from you being one of the guest posters on the Pun Animation Instagram.
Oh my gosh, my mind was blown when Lynn like reached out to me because I'd been following her for like years, and she was like one of the people who I was really who I just really looked up to throughout college. Like if you looked at like a million of my dribble buckets, like her work's like all in there. It's insane. And so it was just like kind of celebrity weird moment for me. Yeah, it was crazy. It was so humbling. It was so amazing. I'm still like a little shaken by it. But yeah, those women are like incredible. To even like get to share a bit of myself alongside them, it's just like it meant the whole world to me.
Yeah, it's a really cool Instagram channel, but also, just in case anyone doesn't know, it's also like a Facebook community, and it's for all women and trans and non-binary people working in the industry of animation and motion graphics. So if anyone wants to join that as well, we'll put all the links in the show notes too. But yeah, there's so many stuff that I want to go back and ask you about. I was just sort of letting you talk. But one of the things that stuck out to me is that you worked at Collegehumor for a bit, which is really cool because like I think it's quite funny. And I also like an episode that's called Don't Start a Podcast, which I thought I would just mention here.
Yeah, no, I don't know if I was working there then, or maybe there were so many projects going on like day in and day out that it was crazy the work they put out. But I will say, working at Collegehumor I still consider it like one of the best jobs that I had. It was just such a like cool environment. Everyone was like so funny, like so tough. Just because like you got to think you're put in a room with a bunch of comedians, like everyone on every like no matter what role they were working in, like they just got comedy so well. And so like we would always do bits and there's so much laughter, and we had like crazy like nights. Like I'm not gonna say it was all sunshine and great. Like there were some really tough times, and it definitely gave me a run for my money, but I also grew so much there. Like my art director was amazing. I still credit him to a lot of my success. He really took a chance on me, and I just like I grew so much in that environment, and I'm so thankful for my time that I got to work there. And I had a really positive experience there. I learned a ton, and I also learned that entertainment, it's a tough space to be in, especially as a designer. I felt personally valued there. I know in the entertainment industry, design just kind of isn't sometimes, and that was one of the reasons why I left. Just because in tech, I felt there was a stronger place for design and it had a stronger voice, and certain companies cared about it a little more and they valued it more. And so I definitely felt like that was the space I needed to be in if I really wanted to push my career further. But I still have so many great memories, so many great friends who I met there. I really found my family out in LA at that company, and so it was a really great experience. And I'm in a couple of the sketches. I will not name what they are because I looked awful in them. But if people want to watch down hundreds of videos and find me, don't do it. It's not worth it.
Oh, but can we not put them in the show notes? I really want to put them in the show notes now.
Oh man. Oh man. No.
We have to.
There's one, but I just look so like it was like the end of the day and they like just needed some extra people to like be on camera. And so I was like, they pulled me and I was just looking super rough. It was a really funny skit too, but I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe I'll share it. I'll have to think about it. I don't know if that's a can of worms I should open up just yet.
Well, I feel like all the motion designers would want to see it now. So if you're listening to this bit in the podcast, maybe it's on the show notes. So you can go and check it out there if you're listening to it. I'm going to try and convince Sabrina to let us show it on there.
Definitely the one I'm in. It's a good one. I just, if I could cut myself out of it and then let everyone else watch it. Oh man. Okay, I'll share it. I'll share it out. I'll just put myself through this embarrassment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's cool. You should. That's awesome. I wish I was in a Collegehumor sketch. That's so cool.
I mean, if you're ever in California, I know all those guys still there. So if you want to be in it, I'll make it happen. I'll figure it out.
That's the coolest offer I've had on this podcast so far, actually. So, I might have to try and come out and take you up on that. So, yeah, I just wanted to go back to the Facebook interviewing part and just ask you about a story that you told me over email about airdropping your animated business card to one of the people there.
Yeah, no, that was definitely like an 11th hour scheme that I'm so happy it worked, because if the person I dropped it to had an Android, that would not have worked at all. But yeah, so when I had gotten that invitation, it was like within days of this event, and so I didn't really have any business cards on hand. And I was like, oh, I'm going to like this like Facebook event. I need to like share something. What can I do? And so about like an hour before I was supposed to be there, I just made this like digital business card where I had all my information on it. It was like formatted like a business card, and I had one of my animated selfies. And I can see if I can dig that up. But yeah, and so I just like kept that on my phone, and I was like, okay, if I meet anyone, I'll just airdrop them this card and see if that's okay, or maybe I'll text it to them. But it's like better than having nothing and having them record it. When I had gotten there, when we were seated, because the event was also like this fancy weird dinner situation. It was so strange but so cool, in this 3D cube that had projection mapping animations on it. And so I was sitting next to one of the CDs, or one of the creative directors. And as I was about to head out, I just grabbed her and I was like, hey, would it be cool if I could airdrop my business card to you? And she kind of just like looked at me. She's like, oh, that's clever. And I was like, I don't know if it was clever more than just like I was not prepared, but I'm glad you liked it. When I kind of like think back at it, I don't know if I would do that again. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. I'm not sure. But what I thought for just like motion designers in general, like what a great way to show what you can do right off the bat, in a sense, like to have this quick snapshot of your skill sets and your information all in one. And so at the time, I was a little scared that it was like really bad and hacky. But in retrospect, like looking back on it, I was like, that was a really smart decision for being unprepared for something like this. And so if you ever find yourself in a situation where, you're a motion designer or an animator and you don't have business cards, but you're going to be at a networking event, maybe try it, and maybe it'll leave an impression. Maybe it'll be a cool thing. I think that definitely helped me at least get an email back.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think it's a really good idea, like to stand out. I mean, now maybe everyone listening to this is going to try it and then maybe you won't stand out, right? But I think it's cool because you're right. You are kind of showing instantly what you can do. And I've also heard recently of some people in the motion hatch community saying that they're having some cards made, and if you use a certain app, you kind of get an augmented reality animation over the top of it or something like that. I hope that's right.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I gotta look into that.
maybe that's the future of motion design business cards. I don't know.
Yeah, QR codes did not work, and so maybe an AR experience will be like a cool thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's interesting anyway. So how long have you been working at Facebook for?
So I actually started back in May, so about a little over 5 months, so still pretty new. It's been really good so far. I feel like I've grown like leaps and bounds already just from being here in my short time, and everyone's just super smart, super kind. They really, really have created like such a healthy, positive environment, and they want you to make your best work, and it's been refreshing to be a part of that.
That's awesome. So what's your favorite thing about working at Facebook?
Definitely my team. Definitely my team. I've never been at a company where everyone around you was just like so good, just so genuinely good, and actually like cared about you as a person, like on a very personal level. Knowing that and feeling that, and just that feeling of being supported makes all the difference in a role, especially, when you're new. And I'm like admittedly a very shy person. And so it's like hard for me to come into like a huge company and just really feel comfortable. But just the people that I work alongside of, they've really made me feel like I belong here. Like they've really reinforced that sense of belonging that I think everyone kind of looks for, especially when you're starting out, especially when like at a place like this, like it's really easy to get imposter syndrome. Like I still like feel it all the time. I'm just like, should I be here? Am I the right person? But the more that I'm surrounded by that support and the more that they kind of believe, like, yeah, you were like, show me like I belong here. Like I start to feel like, yeah, I do belong here. Like I do have something to offer. I do bring something to this team and into this place. And so I'm just really like thankful for that.
Yeah. Do you have any ways that you deal with imposter syndrome, like in particular?
Oh man, I wish I had an answer for that. And it's hard. I think when you kind of take a step back and realize like everyone, no matter what, like especially in this space, we're always going to be students, we're always going to be learning the things that we do and the techniques and the tools and whatnot. Like they're always going to be changing, styles are always going to be shifting. And so understanding that you're always going to be in this constant cycle of learning and growth helps you get more comfortable with knowing that you're not an imposter. You're just in one of those fields where you're always going to be a student, and that's okay. And just keep taking the time to get better at being a good student.
Yeah, I think that's really solid advice. And I'd say with that as well is you should always be like the worst person in the room, because then that gives you the most room for growth, if you're learning from people around you.
Yeah, like it does go back to that saying, like, once you're the smartest person in the room, you got to find a new room. And if you're not, like, that's not a bad sign. That isn't at all. It's like that means this environment still has so much to give to you as someone who's in this process of growth. And the sooner you're able to reconcile that with yourself and to get comfortable with not being the smartest person, like the quicker you're going to start growing and learning and being more of the person you think you're not.
Yeah, for sure. So, if there's one piece of advice that you'd like the audience to take away from this episode, what would it be?
The one thing that has absolutely helped me throughout my time and as a motion designer, and it's so simple. It's just share your work, be visible, show yourself and show up and share everything. Like show the good, show the bad, even the great thing about having bad work is it's just going to be a really clear marker for growth when your good work starts emerging. And you kind of got to get through all like the bad stuff and, the things you're not so proud of to really start chipping away at understanding like what is good, like getting an understanding of what's well received. And, the good thing about sharing out work is like people will let you know too. Like people will show up for you if you're sharing yourself with the community. And the motion design community I found has been just incredibly supportive, incredibly kind, and I encourage people not to be afraid to share within that space, because no one's gonna like comment on your post like this sucks. Like they're not gonna tear you down. Or at least I've never experienced that. And being consistent with sharing your work is a really important thing too. And I know it's something that I've been really bad at lately and I need to be better at. Because when you're consistently, making and creating and sharing, like you're learning from the people around you, you're getting a sense of like what lands and what doesn't. And that act in itself is just really helping you learn and understand what people are really taking to. If you don't share work and you don't test the space and really understand like what people like and don't like, you're going to get caught in your own biases, which isn't like a bad thing, but it's going to open you up a lot more if you share yourself. And I think sharing yourself in itself will open more doors than you could have ever imagined. And I think having done that, I don't think I would be here today. I don't think had any of the opportunities that I've had if I had not shared my work.
Yeah, that's super great advice. So if people want to find you and your work, where should they go?
Yeah, so my website is currently down right now. I'm doing a lot of updates to that. and that would just be sabrinacurry.com when that does come back up. But I share most of my work and myself on my Instagram, and that's at Sabrina with 2 A's at the end, Curry. And that'll be like the best place to like see my work or just see me be an idiot on Instagram stories. Nothing but nonsense on there, but I'll definitely be putting out more stuff soon. I promise. I'm in this like period of learning and kind of digging into some new different styles that I'm exploring. And so I got to start sharing that out now. I got to get to work.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. This is great. Thank you so much.
That was awesome. Thank you so much again to Sabrina for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. There was so much valuable advice in there. It was really, really good. And I just wanted to ask you one quick favor. If you enjoy this podcast and it helps you, could you hop over to iTunes and leave us a rating and review and subscribe? That will just help the podcast get out there, and it will help more people know whether they should listen to it or not and whether it's for them. So if you could do that, I really appreciate it. Thanks so much again. See ya.